Welcome to this preview of HRMAC'S Summit 2012. This program features a conversation with keynote speaker Richard Greene. Richard is a leading communications coach, speaker, and author of Words That Shook the World, 100 Years of Unforgettable Speeches and Events. Richard has also been called the Master of Charisma by the Sunday Times of London. In this interview with Ron Cipiora, Senior Vice President at BPI Group and Summit 2012 committee member, Richard gives us a sneak preview of what he'll be covering at Summit 2012.
Richard, thank you so much for joining us today. We are really looking forward to having you at the HRMAC'S Summit in November. Richard, you're an expert in communicating, and you've presented to so many organizations and large companies to teach them how to be better communicators. Tell us a little bit about how you got started doing this and what inspires you to continue doing this.
Well, thank you so much, Ron, and it's a real honor to be invited to attend your conference and come to Chicago, especially before it gets into January and February. So I appreciate the timing of that, since I'm from Los Angeles and used to sunshine and not so much wind. I had a very bizarre career path because my philosophy, and this is something I think really makes for great employees in companies as well, is that I wake up every day and I ask myself what I want to do when I grow up. And I don't spend a day working that is not fueled by an authentic passion for what I'm doing. And so that has led me in many different directions. I started as a lawyer, went to USC Law School, practiced law for 7 years, had always been very interested in public speaking and in politics and in speeches and in national issues, and ended up getting very also involved in following human potential teachers and studying about that. And back in 1983, I received an invitation from a gentleman named Anthony Robbins, this tall kid who was 23 years old, and it indicated that in a couple of weeks he was going to be teaching people how to overcome their fears and walk on a bed of hot burning coals. There's been a little bit of an incident, a public incident about that recently, but 28 years ago, no one knew anything about it, and it was intriguing, so I went and walked on hot coals and went up to Tony Robbins and told him that he was one of the best communicators I had ever seen, and again, he was 23 at the time, that I was a lawyer in town, and that I thought he would make a huge impact on the world, and I wanted to help him do that, because he was very inspiring, and the event was, and people enjoyed it, and it turns out, he said, yes, would love to meet with you, I could use a lawyer. It was at the very beginning of his career, and he ended up moving into my law office, and for 6 months running his career out of my law office and staying up with him every morning, night till like 2 or 3 o'clock, brainstorming about this incredible technology that he was bringing to the world, which was based, as many of your people know, on neuro-linguistic programming. So I became fascinated by the whole human potential movement and communication, and decided that that was really what I wanted to do. So I quit my law practice, and starting in 1984, started teaching seminars on how to use what I had learned about neuro-linguistic programming from Tony and other people, and communication tools and techniques that I was absorbing, everywhere I could get them. And then in 1987, started giving speeches and doing keynotes and trainings outside the United States, and have done over 100 international lecture tours in now 33 countries, and worked with some really fascinating people. And I love what I do, and it keeps evolving, and I am really happy that I'm no longer practicing law.
Great. Richard, thank you so much. You mentioned international. You had the opportunity to work with Princess Diana and coach her on public speaking. Tell us what that was like.
Well, Princess Diana was one of the more amazing and charismatic human beings that I had certainly ever met, and she illustrates so many of the things that I teach my students, and this is a big question that I get, especially from women. It's like, what was Princess Diana like? Tell me. And they're interested as much in the gossip side of it as in the communication side. She was this extraordinary person, and it's very sad that she's no longer with us because I think she would have evolved as a really powerful force from the standpoint of communication and also public speaking, and that's what we talked about. I met her at the Harbor Club gym and told her that I had been asked by the television show Extra, I believe it was 1995, the end of 1995, to cover a speech and analyze a speech that she was giving with Colin Powell and Barbara Walters at a charity event in New York City. And so I was there, and I was actually quite impressed with her presence and how she communicated, and had the chance then approximately 6 months later in London to tell her that. And she was fascinated by my take, and then and told me that she hated public speaking. She was very afraid of it and nervous the entire time, and I told her that she had the ability to truly be one of the great global communicators in a kind of similar way to what I was talking about with respect to Tony Robbins. And she brushed me off and she goes, oh, no, I'm never going to be very good at that. In fact, I'm very jealous of Charles because Charles can stand up there at the beginning of his speeches and he can tell jokes and he seems to be very in control. And I looked her in the eye and I said, Princess, I have to tell you that you are way beyond your ex-husband, and that was right in the middle of their separation. I said, he has nothing on you because he doesn't have that authentic passion and that charm and charisma, and all you need to do is tap into that and be natural and be yourself. And public speaking is going to be not only not scary for you, but actually quite fun and quite rewarding. And had she lived longer, I think she would have fully realized that, because she did have this innate, extraordinary capacity to charm and in fact mesmerize people with her eyes, with the quality of energy that came out of her, which really, as we all know, kind of mesmerized, everybody from heads of state and Henry Kissinger and Hollywood celebrities couldn't get enough of her. And I had the distinct and wonderful opportunity and privilege of the first time we met, spending 2 hours, about 6 feet away from her at Kensington Palace, having lunch and going over, my ideas on how she could, in fact, embrace her role in a way as a public speaker without fear and without being inhibited by all of that. So it was quite an extraordinary experience. But what it teaches is that anyone, even as she was a primary school teacher, could, if they tap into their inherent qualities and charm and charisma, which everyone has, if they could simply do that, then they will have the ability to do what the title of my book is, and that is to shake the world.
Great, thanks again. We are looking forward to your session at Summit 2012. Can you give us a sneak peek as to what you'll be covering?
Yeah, absolutely. What I've been doing, especially since I came out with my book that Prentice Hall published called Words That Shook the World, is I've been sharing with audiences the 7 secrets that people like Martin Luther King, Ronald Reagan, Winston Churchill, Franklin Roosevelt, John F. Kennedy, all of the great people, and to some extent people like Princess Diana, although she hadn't fully evolved her capacity to really utilize these 7 secrets. What is it that these people do when they are standing up and giving a speech, or even when they were talking one-on-one with another person? What is it that they do that allows people to remember them, that allows people to be impacted by what they're saying and have that impact last for hours or days, or in those cases that I mentioned, decades or centuries? And there are 7 specific secrets that the greatest communicators do and utilize that most people don't even know about, even if they're seasoned HR professionals or public speakers or speechwriters. And so what I'm going to be doing in Chicago is breaking those down. And briefly, I can give you an overview if you'd like.
Yeah, do a quick overview would be good.
Okay. Real simple. The first three secrets have to do with the three ways that human beings communicate: words, voice tone, and body language. And there are specific ways that great communicators use their words, use their voice tone, and use their body language that people who don't have that kind of impact when they give speeches simply don't. The fourth secret has to do with your message. And I know that's a very important thing for a lot of communication professionals. How do I communicate in a really concise way the message of this product, the message of this corporation, the message? And there are some secrets on how that can be done, and I call it the lasered compelling message. How do you create a lasered compelling message rather than what many presenters do, is what I call the spaghetti approach, is you throw a bunch of noodles against the wall and you hope that one or more of them stick. And the noodles would be facts and details, and people fill their PowerPoint presentations with way too many facts for the most part and put the onus of deciphering all of that and coming up with the essential message on the audience. And the audience shouldn't have to do any work. They should be spoon-fed every single thing that you want them to take away with them. Then we're talking about how the fifth secret is, how do you communicate with an audience? What is the relationship between a speaker who is operating at a very high level and their audience? Is it as a performance where it's like da-da-da-da and you memorize something and you put on a show? Is it as a presentation where it's driven by the facts that you're trying to get across? Or is it a conversation? And so we're going to talk about that, and people will understand that what made a Ronald Reagan so effective, the great communicator, or Bill Clinton, is that they literally have a fundamentally different approach to their audience, and it is actually more as a conversation, which, by the way, allows you to be much less anxious if you go up on stage in any circumstance and present it as a conversation, not a performance or a presentation. So that's a really big key. Then the next secret is a fascinating thing called that I call the four languages of communication. The greatest communicators actually literally use all of four of the frequencies or languages of communication, and lesser communicators use three or most likely only two of them. And if you can increase, it's like keys on a keyboard. 88 keys is the full keyboard. Most people only play about 40 to 50. If you can play 60, 70, or 80 or 88 and be a really complete communicator, it is impossible for a person who does that to not be charismatic. And the great communicators, really, if you break it down, all they do is they use more of their neurological potential and play more of their keys. And then the last secret is the one that makes it so easy for everybody, no matter who they are. As I was mentioning about Princess Diana, you don't have to be articulate. You don't have to be an extrovert. You can actually shake the world if you understand that last secret, and I'll save that for the conference.
Great. How can you benefit our attendees, and is this a message they could easily take back and provide practical tips to others for communicating?
If people don't find at least 5 very specific, instantly usable things that can increase the impact and engagement of their public speaking and their messages, I will forfeit my entire fee and I will go back to Los Angeles. No, this is the lowest hanging fruit that I've ever seen in terms of training, and that's feedback that I've gotten for the past 28 years. It's so sad to me that in junior high school and colleges and even in graduate schools, there is very little attention paid to how to communicate. And it's a little bit like, you're going to get a driver's license, and people, don't teach you how to use the gas pedal or the brake. There are very, very basic things that great communicators, as I've been mentioning, great speakers use that simply are not taught. And I've spent the last 28 years of my life studying with great people, as I mentioned, like Tony Robbins and many others, and working with tens of thousands of clients, from presidents and prime ministers to CEOs to HR people to celebrities, and on, integrating these things, giving them these secrets. And every single person that I have ever worked with, and we're going to do a demonstration or a couple of them during the workshop, where you can see that within a period of 1 to 2 minutes, literally I can take someone who's at a level 2 and take them to a 5, or someone who's at a 5, take them to an 8 by using these techniques. The whole purpose of this workshop is for people to walk out with very concrete, usable, tangible tools. And within those 7 secrets, everyone's going to be able to say, oh, my God, yeah, I don't do that. I can do that much better. Wow, now I have a tool, whether it's how to use your voice tone or your body language, how to put together the messaging, how to use more of the 4 languages of communication, because, oh, my God, I now realize I've only been using 2 of them. This whole thing, it's so exciting because it's like a virtual or actual makeover class, and I think people are going to be very excited about the practicality of these tools.
Richard, thanks so much for taking the time to visit with us today, and we really look forward to having you at the summit.
I do as well, and I love Chicago.
Hear more from Richard and other thought leaders on Thursday, November 8th. For registration information, visit us online at HRMAC'S.org.